All right, mech commanders. The mech warriors are at your disposal. The Battletech question. Fritz, battle value. What kind of games do you play? What's like a standard battle value game? And I think this is a great question because one of the reasons why I like to connect on YouTube and on my blog with Battletech is I get a lot of amazing ideas. We're discussing mechs. We're looking at tactics. I feel pretty confident, pretty solid as a mech commander. You guys respond with some comments that I'm like, wow, that's amazing. I never would have thought about that. Or I didn't take that thinking in that direction. So the feedback, the interaction, and also other Battletech videos that I watch, I mean, this is the community. This is what we're trying to do. We're trying to accelerate, or I should say we're trying to cut down on that learning curve. The challenge here is my meta, how I play, is not always how other Battletech players play. So I don't think I can answer and say, well, what is a standard battle value game? Because there's way too many factors. But we're going to try and do it anyway. And then as always, we're going to kick it over to you guys in the comments. So battle value represents this idea of currency. And some players use tonnage. Some players use C-bills. But ideally, you and I, before we sit down to play with our little toys, our mech toys, we say, well, let's come up with a battle value, and then you can purchase, if you look through the tech manuals, there's a battle value rating. You can purchase units with that battle value. So if we're playing at 4,000 battle value, in theory, we can have radically different lists, but it should be about balanced. It should be about fair going into that. The first thing with battle value, it reflects, generally speaking, the more battle value, the longer the game is going to take. Simply because you've got more units on the table. You've got more bubbles to scratch off. You've got more initiative to track. And as you layer over multiple rules, now it's going to take a little bit longer to play also. So it's not so much battle value in the beginning. It's what are you playing? If I'm playing 4,000 battle value with just mechs, so we agree ahead of time, you can spend your 4K just on mechs, that's a pretty straightforward game. If you say you could spend it on combined arms, mechs, tanks, and infantry, the rules are a little bit different. You have to look up a couple of different things here and there. It's going to slow the game down a little bit, or it's going to take the game longer, I should say. It's not necessarily going to slow it down. If we add in air support or artillery, it's a very dynamic game, but it's increasing. So the first question I like to ask is, what are we including with it? Second is the proficiency of the rules with the players. Now, occasionally I still have to look stuff up because there's a lot of wargaming systems rattling around in my mind. But also, the larger the battle value, the bigger the game, the longer it's going to take. So we need to account for that perspective when we come up with a standard battle value. I like to start and say, well, in theory, how much time do we have to play Battletech? Because in my mind, I'm going to do my best to win. Two things happen in every game. Fritz is going to try and win with big guns, and he's going to try to earn as much tabletop glory as possible in the mission. So in doing those two things, and this is true of any wargaming system, I want to complete the game. We're taking time out of real life. We're sitting down. We're rolling some dice. We're having some fun. We're creating some awesome memories. I want to complete the game. So this way we know what happens. Like my hero Maximus, are you not entertained? We want to see what happens. So if I only have 2 hours to play Battletech with you, and we show up with an 8K force each, like, we're not going to complete that game. And we want to try and complete it. Now, sometimes things happen unexpectedly or things take a little bit longer. We're talking like law of averages. How much time do we have to play? Do we have about 4 or 5 hours? Do we have a weekend? Do we just have 2 hours? So you can scale the battle value based on the time that you have to play. That's the biggest question in coming up, I think, for a standard battle value for your games. Of course, what do you want to play? What do you want to layer in? Do you want to do combined arms? Do you want to do air support? Do you want to do artillery? That adjusts, but where are you playing? 5 hours with a friend on a Saturday afternoon or an evening, or 2 or 3 hours at the gaming store? That's the big question. Okay, Fritz, what battle value do you play at? And let's talk about adjusting it based on tech. Usually, most of the time, on an average Battletech game, I've got about 4 or 5 hours to play comfortably. Maybe take a little break here and there. Got some background music playing. Got that 80s kind of Battletech music going. If we have 4 to 5 hours, we do 5 or 6K battle value combined arms because I love my tanks. I love my mechs. I love my tanks. That's the biggest problem for me with Battletech. I want all mechs and I want all tanks and I want to get everything in there. That's kind of a standard battle value type game. Now, here's where you have to adjust it, and we complete the games more or less in that time. If we jump to clans, and it's not clans versus clans, it's clans versus inner sphere, clan mechs are very, very expensive. 4 to 5K battle value for clans, that's baby cakes. That's like, I get like 3 mechs on the table. You don't get a lot. So generally, if you're playing clans versus clans, Trial of Possession, or looking at that, you can play 8, 9, 10K battle value. And you're like, whoa, 10K battle value. Clans versus clans, that's maybe the equivalent of 3 or 4K for battle value inner sphere versus inner sphere. When you jump into the different time periods, and if we're looking at Invasion, where we have clans versus inner sphere, I could do 2 or 3 clan mechs versus your inner sphere force, and we can have a fun game, but you want the clan player to get a lot of toys on the table. You want to give them at least a star, and you want to give them some battle armor and stuff. You want to get that narrative on the table. If they're playing at 8, 9, 10K, and maybe that's too high, but if you're playing at that, inner sphere, I'm going to have like 25 mechs on the table. Like, I'm going to have a lot on the table. And just maneuvering and tracking and firing, that's going to slow the game down. So sometimes what we'll see as we move through different tech levels and the different narratives in Battletech, you might need to adjust your battle value up to make it an interesting game, but that's going to lead to more time. Or if you adjust your battle value down, maybe you have to adjust the scenario. So there's no hard and fast rules, and I don't make any assumption about how I play battle value is how, like, most people play battle value for Battletech. And I'd be curious, stepping out of my own local community here, what battle value do you play at? You know, how long does it take? What's a typical Battletech game? If you were like, Fritz, come on over, bring your toys. What are we playing at? What are we looking? What are we doing? But for the most part, where I would start, if you are coming up, you're new to Battletech, you're jumping in, you've got the Game of Armored Combat, you've got the Invasion box set, you've got the hex maps, you're pumped, you're excited, you're ready to go, I'd look first and start, after you are familiar with the rules somewhat, you can always look up stuff and clarify stuff or dice it off, look and say, how much time do we have to play? How much time? 3, 4 hours, 5 hours, and set your battle value based on that.